Hi everybody, Adam Savage here from Tested in my cave with a show and tell, or it might be a tool tip. It might be both. One of the coolest things that happens here at Tested is people see these videos where I talk about stuff and then they send me things that are akin to the things that I've been talking about. So a couple of weeks ago, I was working on my Eagle Moss Ecto 1. And I was using these little jewelry containers that you can see here, screw top jewelry containers, to hold on to all the tiny, tiny, tiny screws, all these tiny screws that are part of the Eagle Moss attachment system. And they often send you extra screws, so it's good to keep track of where they are. And as you can see, there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 different kinds of screws already, and I'm only on issue 10. And so these sorters provide a great way for me to have an impromptu tiny part sort. But I mentioned during that video that I have a tiny parts drawer for little eyeglass screws and little tiny thingamajigs. And I mentioned that those little jewelry containers, I had bought them like a year or two ago with the hopes of tackling my tiny screws drawer. And I hadn't gotten around to it. Well, so a fan wrote to us at Tested and sent this beautiful letter, by the way, on really nice laid paper. This is Nate Bartush, who has excellent graphic design skills. It's nicely laid out. He's chosen careful font, and his handwriting is also really lovely. Nate says, hey, I was watching one of your recent Q&A live streams, and you're talking about your tiny screws and how you store them. It gave me a chuckle. I'm a watchmaker, and I suppose my sense of screw size is probably different than yours. I was impressed with your storage setup of gluing small jars to a board. It's surprisingly close to some professional boxes watchmakers use to store parts. So he sent me, he sent me some part sorters. So 3 different, these boxes were made by Johan Renfer, GmbH. Johan Renfer made these boxes, and Nate Bartush sent them to me. And we have 3 different kinds of boxes here. We've got ones with some square containers. Oh, and they're all individual. Oh my goodness, look at that. We'll get some juicy close-ups. Then there's some round containers. Ooh, that have, wow, you can put, yeah, okay. So these are also little, oh my God, this is great. And there's some circles of white paper here, so you can put them underneath so you can see to the bottom, and then some rectangular containers. And all of these are for me to use, and this is amazing. Like, I'm totally blown away. Yeah, these are super useful to me. We have 4, 16, 32, 40 containers here, 2, 4, 6, 7, 23 here, and 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 15 here. 75 some odd containers. I'm not going to do the math right now. Nate, thank you. These are fantastic. And I now, even more than ever, want to get my tiny screws drawer sorted. And I will, thanks to you here. This is fabulous. We're going to do that. We're going to do that as a one-day build. I got to add that to the list. But Nate also sent something else. He said, to help round out your collection of tiny screws, I included some of my small screws. And there's this container, and I'm like, I don't see any screws on this container. Inside the flat capsule, that's this one. Let's see here. Inside this, oh, wow. This is fascinating. Okay, this is a really beautiful parts shipper because it's got these membranes of plastic here that hold things in suspension. It's like its own shock absorption. I didn't even know that such a thing existed. That's kind of amazing. But inside the flat container are some screws. You can't see any screws in here. I can't see any screws in here. These screws are so freaking tiny. Let's see. The 5 white ones are, in my system of measurements, a tap 4, which if it existed in metric size taps would be the equivalent of an M.40. That's 40% of a millimeter, with a thread pitch of 0.1 millimeter. 1/10 of a millimeter thread pitch, and a length of 0.7 millimeters. 70% of a millimeter. The 5 blue screws are heat blued steel and have the same measurements with a different sized head. Oh my God. He said maybe you can get some shots of it, but he included some. Let's see here. Oh my God. This, look at that. Okay, but that's not enough for me. I want to see, okay, yeah, here's the shot. That is the shot, and as you can see, that's a 2019 penny they're sitting on. Nate, you're right. Our sense of size for tiny screws is radically different. Pretty much the tiniest thing I ever have to deal with is an eyeglass screw, which to me is like, you know, that's really, really tiny. Apparently, that's where you get started. That's like where you wake up in the morning. And I want to look at these up close, and I can, because I just did a one-day build of an inspection microscope, and I added a cold ring light to it. Yes, I added this cold ring light to it. And so we're going to take a look at this, and I'm going to try and get this shot on my iPhone. But first, we're going to take a look. Oh, there we go. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I have it set up so it should be pretty close to the right. Okay, so let's see here. Oh, man. You're right, Nate. Those are tiny. Oh, my God. Oh my God. Okay, let's zoom in. Oh. Okay, now I can get to see the difference in my focus. So let's get this in focus, and we'll get my left eye in focus, and then why was I trying to do that side saddle? What kind of dummy? All right, let's get this IPD going. Dude, that is so freaking tiny. Holy cow. Okay. Wow. Oh, Nate didn't just send that. He also sent a tiny, tiny gear. And let me read you what he said about this gear. Nope, that's not the page. There's the page. Additionally, I thought you might like to see some of the really high-tech stuff we're able to do today. So the other small container, this one, has a small gear wheel designed to have zero backlash of the gear chain. Anti-backlash. Let's talk for a second about what Nate means by anti-backlash, zero backlash. First of all, within the meshing of gears, you could spend your whole life just studying the geometry of meshing gears, because it's all about optimal power transfer from one wheel to the next, and that means that every tooth that engages with its neighbor is engaging on these radii, and you don't want them to slide. You want them to be point sources because you want low friction, but you want high power transfer. It's this whole thing. I did a ton of gear research because I built a bunch of large laser cut gear trains for the Matrix sequels, enough to know that it is like, it's way up there in terms of engineering math. And when Nate says zero backlash, that is, so picture that my knuckles here are the teeth of two gears, and gears mesh like this, right? Okay. So it's very hard to design a perfect gear tooth and meshment. And oftentimes backlash is Let's see my index finger here, and there's a little bit of space. It's like turning this way. And so the contact here is good, but the contact on the next gear tooth, this one, there's a little dead space in there. It can move. Sometimes it's unavoidable. That movement is backlash, and it's a dead space. Now, I've opened up aviation equipment where the geared wheels inside were actually doubled and sprung slightly apart so that there was like basically a sprung tooth, a tooth that could adjust its width slightly. And that allowed for a perfect zero backlash enmeshment. But this is on a wheel that is about 3/8 of an inch in diameter with tiny, tiny, tiny little teeth. Let's take a look at what Nate's zero backlash gear looks like. It is made using LIGA, lithographic galvanic technique, to achieve its small scale. It would be impossible to manufacture this wheel using traditional physical manufacturing methods. Let's take a look. All right. Ooh, okay, I'm zoomed in too far. There we go. Okay, let's get the focus. Oh, wow. I'm really sort of, that's, oh. I was about to say, I don't know how they make these spring-loaded, because like what I was describing was a spring-loaded gear. So the teeth all were like slightly wider, and that way they engaged and got rid of backlash. But they've done this using this LIGA method. And what you can see here is little spring-loaded leaves. Oh my God, that is beautiful. Holy cow. Yeah. Nate, I can't thank you enough for the gift, for the organizational stuff, for the information, and for the education in what is truly tiny in the land of screws. And I'm sure there are watchmakers out there who'd be like, I could drill sideways through that thing. That is not me. Nate, I thank you so much. Thank you guys for joining me for this show and tell. And if you'll excuse me, I'm now going to spend half an hour shooting some close-ups that you probably already saw cut into this. But I'm all alone, so that's how this goes these days. Thank you guys for joining me for this show and tell. See you next time.